Since the 19th century, observers noted a pattern in human achievement. The children of profound geniuses rarely match the exceptional intellect of their parents. Albert Einstein provides the ultimate example of this solitary intellectual peak. He occupied a statistically extreme position in the population distribution that proved nearly impossible to replicate. His son, Hans Albert Einstein, became an internationally recognized professor of engineering at UC Berkeley. But compared to a father who restructured our understanding of space-time, his career illustrates a clear intergenerational drop. The Bernoulli family followed a different trajectory. Across 3 generations, they produced 8 prominent mathematicians who dominated early calculus and fluid dynamics. Predictable statistical and biological laws explain why one lineage produces a solitary outlier, while another builds an enduring dynasty. Previously, research into this phenomenon remained silent. Geneticists focused on DNA, psychologists studied childhood environments, and statisticians charted probability in isolation. The intergenerational inheritance of intelligence is actually a single vector driven by mathematical regression, polygenic architecture, and the intensity of the family ecosystem. To analyze these factors simultaneously, we use the Intellectual Genealogy Analysis Matrix, or MAGI. Applying this matrix requires a rigorous interactionist model, viewing cognitive outcomes as the result of biology and environment working in tandem. Francis Galton first identified the baseline rule for inheriting extreme traits in 1886, a phenomenon he called regression toward the mean. Regression is a statistical artifact that appears whenever we measure traits that involve random variance. Meta-analyses show parent-offspring IQ correlation is roughly 0.50. Therefore, regression is inversely proportional. With a 0.50 correlation, we expect 50% regression. So, a parent with an IQ of 150 is expected to have a child scoring in the 125 to 133 range. A substantial cognitive drop between a genius and their child is the baseline statistical expectation. The question then becomes biological. Why is that genetic correlation only 0.50 to begin with? Intelligence has a polygenic architecture. It relies on thousands of specific genetic variants, or SNPs, scattered across the genome, each contributing a tiny cumulative effect. Emergenesis theory suggests extreme traits require complex, non-additive interactions. Peak intellect requires specific variants interlocking perfectly, like a biological house of cards. But human reproduction is a shuffler. Meiotic recombination splits and mixes DNA, inherently dismantling these delicate, rare configurations. Reproducing a peak genius is mathematically improbable because the very process of reproduction shatters the specific genetic clusters required to reach that apex. Genetics only sets the range. Gene-environment interaction studies show that while heritability increases in adulthood, it only does so if the environment is designed to optimize that genetic potential. The MAGI framework highlights why the Einstein lineage regressed. Their statistical decline paired with psychological vulnerabilities and less intensive environmental engineering in the second generation. The Bernoulli and Bachs dynasties scored at the maximum level for ecosystem intensity. They countered statistical regression by building environments prioritizing intellectual continuity. These families utilized internal apprenticeships and intense structural competition. They also practiced assortative mating, marrying within their own academic communities to increase the concentration of favorable genetic variants. We see this mechanism in the modern case of Terence Tao. His family combined active parental advocacy with structured educational programs to buffer regression. Constructing a highly intensive educational ecosystem allows families to load the dice, sustaining high achievement against the pull of statistical gravity. Cultural myths and media reports often suggest that the children of eminent figures are consistently failing to meet expectations. This perception is driven by the availability heuristic. Dramatic stories of failed geniuses are memorable, while children of eminent parents who become highly successful but less famous professionals go unreported. At the extreme right tail, the gap between a 99.999th percentile parent and a 99th percentile child looks like a steep decline. But as we zoom out to the general population, both remain clustered at the very edge, massively far from the average. Retaining a 99th percentile score in the second generation represents an extraordinary preservation of cognitive ability. Inheritance architecture rests on three pillars. Statistical regression is inescapable. Genetic shufflers prevent exact replication, but ecosystem intensity mitigates the drop. For educational policy, this suggests we should move beyond simply identifying talent and focus on constructing long-term, supportive ecosystems that allow that talent to manifest. For high-achieving parents, the data serves as a warning. Pushing for the replication of genius triggers psychological suppressors, like burnout, preventing a child from reaching their actual potential. While we cannot control the genetic shuffle, we have the power to build the environments required to sustain exceptional human potential across generations.